on legal advice, the Ogun State government resolved to resist the enforcement of the award. The resistance was successful in eight different jurisdictions. There are pending appeals against recognition orders issued in both a U.S. and UK court, right? Now, Ogun State also engaged Zhongshan in settlement discussions on reasonable terms. The last meeting held in September of 2023, just last year, barely 1 year ago. Yes, barely 1 year ago in London. Now, it lasted for 3 days and was attended by several officials of the Ogun State, including Governor Dapo Abiodun and the Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi. Now, Zhongshan's initial reasonable readiness to consider Ogun State's offer was surprisingly reversed by the second day when it insisted on the government paying the full arbitration debt. Of course, we're talking about 60 million US dollars. Okay, so this led to a breakdown of the mediation, with parties agreeing to meet again in the first quarter of 2024 this year. Now, since then, the Chinese company has been evasive. Instead, it embarked on a series of enforcement proceedings, which the legal team appointed by the federal government and the Ogun State government successfully opposed in cases similar to the current one that we're discussing right now, where Chinese firms like Zhongshan obtained an expedite order. Ogun State successfully set aside those orders. Now, Ogun State has not given up on a reasonable settlement option, with the most recent letter sent to the Chinese firm last week, and the Chinese company only responded after obtaining this latest supposed illegal order. So that's just to give you a background into all of this. There's a whole lot of legal jargons. I've gone into a bit of the documents that have been made available to the media with regards to this subject matter. Quite technical. If you're not a student of the law like some of us are, you will find it very boring and technical. But so what we've done and what we'll do on the show is try to bring it down to brass tacks, because as far as the average Nigerian is concerned, Nigeria's planes were seized. And not just Nigeria's planes, part of the presidential fleet, which is considered one of national assets, offshore assets, as it were. Now, how has the federal government, whose offshore assets were to be taken over, responded to this? Now, on Friday, August 15, 2024, it issued a State House press statement through the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga. Now, in that press release, it explained that it is not under any contractual obligation with the Chinese company. Now, adding that the case in which Zhongshan is trying to use every unorthodox means to strip its offshore assets is between the company and the Ogun State government. So you could say the federal government is saying it doesn't concern us, so it is the problem of Ogun State. And then one will wonder, is Ogun State not in Nigeria? Is Ogun State government not a sub-government of the federal government? Is it that the federal government was not aware when Ogun State went into this arrangement? Was the federal government not carried along? You know, so many questions are popping up. Anyway, the Nigerian government has emphasized that Zhongshan has no solid ground to demand restitution from the Ogun State government based on the facts regarding the 2007 contract between the company and the state government to manage a free trade zone. Now, when the contract with Ogun State was revoked in 2015, that's 8 years after, the company had only erected a perimeter fence on the land earmarked for a free trade zone. While the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice is working with the Ogun State government on an amicable resolution, the Chinese firm obtained 2 orders from the Judicial Court of Paris in France, dated March 7, 2024, and August 12, 2024, without any notice being duly served to the federal government of Nigeria and, of course, the Ogun State government. The Nigerian government said it's convinced the Chinese company misled the Judicial Court of Paris regarding the use and nature of the assets it seeks to attach, and did not fully disclose to the court as required by law. This same Chinese company had tried to enforce its questionable judgment in the United Kingdom and the United States of America, but failed. It went further to reveal that, like the P&ID case, foreign companies are trying to defraud Nigeria. Now, this is a very strong statement from the Nigerian government, suggesting. So, what that suggests is that, oh, it means there are several other cases of this nature. It's just that this one came to light. So, it means there are companies, foreign companies, in who are, for whatever reason whatsoever, are trying to defraud Nigeria. That's what can be deducted from that statement. It says it went further to reveal that that the P&ID case, foreign companies are trying to defraud Nigeria with the collaboration of some bureaucrats. Zhongshan appeared to have sold the judgment they got to a venture capitalist seeking to make money by embarrassing the federal government and President Bola Tinubu. Of course, that suggests that the matter has become personalized at that point. Now, it assured Nigerians, I'm talking about the Nigerian government, that the federal government is working with the Ogun State government to discharge this frivolous order in Paris immediately, adding that the Nigerian government will always work to protect the country's national assets from predators and SHYLOCKS who masquerade as investors. So, joining me to discuss this attempt by a Chinese company. Now, let's not forget that this phenomenon or this development is not new across Africa. We've heard stories of where even the Chinese government have seized an airport in an African company as a result of the fact that that country failed to pay debts or loans that it had collected. So now let's not, for already, I can imagine what's going through the brains of many Nigerians, because under the previous administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria had borrowed so much, and we borrowed largely between the World Bank and Chinese companies, Chinese government. So one is beginning to wonder, hope we have not entered into agreements that one day we'll just come and find out that maybe Abuja has been taken over by the Chinese, based on the fact that our government had entered some agreement that the Nigerian populace is not even privy to. And we just discovered that Abuja has been annexed to become a part of the Chinese Republic, as it were. So joining me to have this conversation is my friend, brother, and colleague, a journalist and public affairs analyst, Kunle Adeniyi. Kunle, good morning, and thanks for making our time to be on this show. And before we came on air, we were having this conversation where you said you are particularly delighted that we're having this conversation about this current subject matter because it is very important. Most people will see the story and, pass it with a wave of the hand.
Let me give you the expression, Inokuku concerned us, whether they seize the jet or
not. Exactly, considering that people are still silently protesting end of hunger, end to bad governance.
They are even silently protesting the fact that we've just purchased a new jets of all of that.
Exactly. But Kule, from your standpoint as a journalist and public affairs analyst who's been following this development since that news broke, how do you react to the fact that, 2 presidential jets? We know that there have been conversations that even right from the previous administration, that there's a need to reduce the presidential fleet, sell some of those jets. If I remember correctly, on one of the shows, you even talked about it, that why not sell some of these presidential jets and use the money to, buy one functional jet if need be, and then, the rest of the funds put into good use in bettering the lot of the average Nigerian. And here we are, Chinese company, not the Chinese government, but a Chinese company using the tools of the law, international law at that, to almost strip off of our offshore assets.
Not just almost strip us off. I mean, it's more a case of mocking us and even slapping us indirectly on our faces. Because let's look at the situation. You even said the reports we even got was like we are talking about 3, not even 2 presidential jets.
3?
Yes, we are talking about 3. So you can imagine, and not an action of the Chinese government. No, it's even an action of a company. I mean, how should I say how the mighty are falling? We are not talking about a dispute from one country to another. That whereas the sovereign, a country that has sovereignty, having its assets. George, do you see how belittling that is?
Exactly my point.
It's a company, not even a country.
Shouldn't we be seriously worried at this point? Because, I mean, this is a company, yes. But as I had highlighted earlier, we are heavily indebted. And if we, it could be argued, but in the public space, not every Nigerian is aware how much we're indebted and to whom we are indebted. We know because consistently it's in the news, we're indebted to the World Bank, we're indebted to IMF, we're indebted...
Even China, we are indebted to China.
Exactly. Exactly. And as I said, we are living witnesses to China seizing national assets of other African countries.
You talked about an African country. The country you were trying to mention is Kenya. I think it was one of even the train facilities that they constructed. And they are very good in using their expertise to construct. And there is an agreement that, look, they will work they will help you operate it for some time, which means that some of the revenue will go into them for maintaining it, after which you will be able to now take control of the maintenance of some of this infrastructure that they help you develop. Now, the process, you also always look at the clause that comes with it. Now, in the course of all, they help you maintaining, of course, a certain revenue is going back to them for them to be able to...
Even in the construction of that infrastructure.
Yes.
They don't use local manpower. They bring in their own workforce.
Exactly. So they factor all of that. They factor the fact that, look, we are going to bring skills to deploy skills to construct this. We are even going to give you part of the funding, because some of those projects, they are not low-scale projects. They are projects that are very large-scale projects running into millions and sometimes billions of dollars, which the country may naturally not have at that point in time. But that was why we warned at some point in time during the former administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. We warned that, look, if you are, although I must state it clearly that this situation that we have found out is just an embarrassment to us, that they have been able to take advantage of the kind of things we have allowed to happen, how shallow we have reduced ourselves to, that they can take that kind. Because I'm trying to imagine that a Chinese company is going to court to seal a national asset. It's not that you have a dispute with the federal government. No. We must state clearly that the dispute is with the Ogun State government. So if there are assets that should be in jeopardy, why should it be our national assets? Because you made reference to a point where you said, look, it is a matter between a lot of people are saying it's a matter between a company and a subnational, that I will say they cannot interfere, bring in the federal government into this question. It's Ogun State. Yes, I agree with you. Ogun State is part of Nigeria, but Ogun State did not sign that contract on behalf of Nigeria. Ogun State did not sign that contract in conjunction with the federal government of Nigeria. We must state it clearly. The federal government of Nigeria did not at any point, they were not at any point consulted when that agreement was being signed. Because we also always talk about the fact that, look, our federal government should not interfere in the activities of our subnationals.
True.
And it's the same way we always talk about the subnationals having a certain level of control on how they should be governed and how they should take charge of their activities. When I saw that, I asked myself a question. I said, if someone like our top business mogul, Aliko Dangote, had a dispute, maybe with a small state in one
Lagos
of the big
State,
countries,
where it has its refinery.
I know. I want to even say I want to give you a reverse case now. We are seeing a Chinese company having a battle with the Nigerian government. I'm not trying to imagine that Dangote as a company is the same company that has a rift with another foreign country, maybe like Jamaica or the likes of them. Is it the Jamaican national assets Dangote will go after? If he didn't sign the agreement with the Jamaican government, or a state, for instance, the Bahamas in Jamaica, is it not the states they signed? What would even allow Dangote want to seize a national asset for crying out loud? So it is the level of the diminishing returns that we have placed on ourselves. Is why I saw it and I'm like, why do we keep doing these things to ourselves? It's why we have allowed country, a company, it's not even country. If it's a rift between a country to another country, I can understand why it will put the country's national assets in question. Why? Because there are certain financial obligations that have not been met. Like you make reference to the loans that we were collecting. For instance, if it was a case of, oh, we have failed to oblige to some of the terms and conditions of the loans that we have been getting between the Nigerian government and the Chinese, and we warned about that. You remember when it appeared that for every liquid thing, although the question you asked as to whether we even know the state of some of those loans and whether it doesn't put on, I think that the current administration, even though they are not also, you cannot take them away from the problems. They may not be taking loans, but the ones that we are supposed, the monies that we are having right now, where are we spending them? They also have a fact. Although the good side of it is that they came in and almost immediately it looks like they started looking at some of those debts that could put us in this situation of jeopardy, and they started acting. Because I could imagine that if we have not been able to take cognizance into that and we allow that, what we are seeing with even what the Chinese company is doing right now is child's play compared to what because we said, look, there was even a time where I remember during the construction of some of these rails where they were talking about the sovereignty clause. You remember when former Minister of Transportation Rotimi Amechi had to be questioned that, look, what are the details of the agreement that we are signing?
Till now, a lot of questions that were raised with regards to some of the contracts arrangements we entered into, especially with regards to the rail contract across Nigeria, is still very foggy.
Yes.
Still very foggy. So the question is, why are our supposed leaders not thinking of the future of our country? We are quick to collect these loans, get involved in certain contractual agreements without considering what the aftermath would be. Because it's looking as if we do not do our feasibility studies well before we begin to request for these loans, and eventually when we get these loans, as it has been proven over time, rather than invest those loans in capital projects that will ensure return on investment, we seem to, like we saw during the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, we're collecting loans to pay salaries.
Yes.
So how do we turn this around?
Instead of capital, we are spending on recurrent expenditure.
On recurrent expenditure. And the flip side, and I believe I'm speaking the minds of Nigerians. Why, at the point Ogun State was getting into this contractual agreement, was Ogun State suggesting that it couldn't have found an indigenous company an indigenous company to run the free trade zone? Why did it have to be a Chinese company? And at the point they were entering that contractual agreement, was the federal government carried along from start to finish? Or is it that It is when the thing had gone sour, 8 years after. That's when, and it had become a legal issue, that's when the federal government was brought into the picture.
Let me start from the bottom. I would say that they were not carried along until it even got to the embarrassing situation where our assets
Were at stake.
Because there was never at any point in time any mention. You saw how the federal government took over the P&ID case. They were in the know. They knew that, look, there was something wrong. They knew that, look, there was something shady. Because you said, you asked the question. You said it's like they don't think. Not that they don't think about they don't have the futuristic goals. Not that. I think we just have a shallow-minded approach to how we look at these futuristic plans. And why? Look, the free trade zone agreement is not a bad idea. No, it's not something that is not beneficial to, particularly a state like Ogun State. Especially, I hope you know that we call Ogun State the gateway state.
Gateway state.
And
yes.
What does that mean? It's a gateway state for so many activities. A lot of commercial activities. And so what does that mean? When you do a free trade zone agreement, you're talking about commercial activities on a large scale. You can imagine the kind of access to markets that you will be opening. You can imagine the kind of economic growth that you will be paving way for. Not to also say, there is also a point to raise whether we didn't have local companies. Of course, nobody is saying we don't have local companies that could have made that attempt. But on the large scale, I mean, the truth is, when you don't believe in the capacity of what you have, then you want to look for the best. But then the question, because we are now gradually getting into the nitty-gritty of this problem, the question is, when you were sourcing for the companies that would help you bring this vision to light, a vision that talks about economic growth, a vision that talks about bringing foreign direct investments to a larger market, you talk about access that it gives to you. The question is, what was your visibility studies, like you mentioned? To what
was the process?
What was the process?
Was it open? Was it transparent?
Exactly. Did somebody just bring an idea to you, and like as usual, because you have seen people that are willing to bid more and they are ready to give you kickbacks, you don't forget, you neglect the issue of due process. You don't know whether it's a legit company that is coming to bid for it and they have the capacity, or whether they have ulterior motives for wanting to have their way even into investing in such a project, like we are gradually seeing, because it's gradually looking like there were ulterior motives right from scratch. Or I mean, because when you look at recent on several platforms where we have talked about it, we even call that, look, we need to find out what happened. And we made references to those that were in charge. Because right now, and you see, that is the problem that we have with successive governments. When you talked about whether the federal government was in the know, can we talk about what the state is currently dealing with right now? Because it is the failure of successors that has led, what the headache right now is being placed on the head of the current administration of the state.
Yes.
Meanwhile, there were people that initiated this. There were people that were responsible for the cancellation. And you know that when these guys, look, we need to understand that, look, when we do some of these things, they just laugh at us. You know why? Because there are always, they don't just embark on such big projects without clauses. In Nigeria today, before you even get some jobs, they tell you that if you pull out of a particular contract, there is a penalty.
Yes.
Did we look at the red lines? Because from what was heard, two former governors of Ogun State have spoken. Former Governor Benga Daniel, who was in charge.
Yes.
Former Governor Ibikule Amosun, who was responsible for withdrawing that contract. Look, we need to be careful with how we how we approach issues here. You sign an agreement. It's not like your local Nigerian government where you are the one dictating. No. When you are bringing in foreign partners, there are very clear details. The question is, did we read that? Because former Governor Ibikule Amosun said that the reason why they could not, and his excuse was very legit, the reason why they did not proceed was because they found out that, look, there were disagreements over the legitimacy of the companies that were vying to carry out that project. You discovered that at some point. You could not tell who was legitimately applied, who had the resources, who was properly
properly awarded the contract.
Properly awarded.
Because now we are hearing that the Chinese company that was given the contract has sold appealed the judgment from
to another entity,
to a capital venture company,
and
who are now insisting. Of course, that's the nature.
The right to that project belongs to them.
Exactly.
So you have two companies battling as to who has legitimacy to carry out that project in the first place.
Exactly.
I think the first thing that should have been done is you should, on the part of the state government, that's why we have procurement laws. You don't just award contracts without a bidding process. There must be a bidding process. By the time you are bidding, the companies are bidding, you are carrying out your own due diligence in-house investigations,
yes,
to find out the legitimacy, to find out, the existence of the companies that you are giving. What is the long-term plan? And should there be an issue whatsoever in the long run? Is it an issue that could have a future effect on us? If that was the reason why they stopped the contract, then both parties should have been called to the table and said, look, these are the issues. Not that you are talking to one side, you are talking to the other side, and nobody knows what truly is going on. Because I think that's also a breakdown in communication. You don't just revoke a contract without telling giving reasons. Sometimes, we have systems where people just come into office and thank God this is not, I don't know if this is a case of affiliation or rift, that maybe because it was not this person, I was not involved, I don't know the people, I am not comfortable with people, I want to have my own people, that will lead to the cancellation of the contract. But when you have such agreements like this, you must go into the nitty-gritty of the details of the agreement. You must look at the viability of the company that is involved. You must look at their capacity. What is their long-term plan? If there's going to be a change whatsoever, how do we ensure that that change does not affect? Because look, there are always takeovers. We see it in organizations. Whether there is a need for you to merge,
yes,
or whether there is a need for you to give to someone that you feel that, look, has the better resources, all of that. But you must not do it keeping people in the dark. Because what is happening is, was there communication? At what point in time was there? I'm sure the only time we probably took this serious was when it got to the court of arbitration. If it had not gotten to the court of arbitration, I don't think that this case would to the point where I said, because then to the company that is also going to court to, they too will also want to look at how they can take things to their advantage. And I must state it clearly that the issue of the seizure of our jet did not just happen by chance. No, I think that also we must look at, was there, because I remember when the federal government said they were also going to challenge that court order, I remember there was a statement from the Chinese company that said we are open to discussion. The question is, which you raised in your introduction, the question is, was there any point in time where the attention of the government, that's the federal government, was brought into this situation? The default was also because I think that the federal government, if they were in the know right from the onset, they probably would not have allowed it to get to this point. But the moment it became that international embarrassment, I think was why we also saw the response from the presidency, which says that, look, a country with sovereignty, you cannot just seize, because that asset is a national asset that also
doesn't belong to one man.
It doesn't belong to one man.
It belongs to
the entire country. But I want to say that I think that, look, we need to know how we pick our fights. We need to know how we pick our battles. If you, I would say this outrightly. Not to say that the federal government could not have put the Ogun State government in check, although there is when you talk about autonomy, I think there is a little that the federal government can do when you are dictating to states. But let's look at it this way. I want to say that, look, if the Chinese company had a rift with the Ogun State government, you take your battle squarely with it. You don't slap an entire nation by saying, because you think you have the resources. I expect that there is a more tougher response from our federal government. You don't throw jabs at us, and you think we just take it line and sinker.
Isn't this a red flag? You're going to answer this when we come back, because we're going to take a break shortly, and when we come back, you'll answer. Then we'll open the phone lines to get the reactions of Nigerians. I'm hoping that by the time we're done with the show, we'll establish the mindset of Nigerians, considering that Nigerians are still angry at the current administration because of, but the good news is that as we hear, the prices of commodities are gradually coming down, inflation is, gradually coming down. Not everybody is feeling the effect just yet, but at least we're seeing some reverse reversal. We know that Mr. President has given an order that no taxation on food for the next 6 months.
The question is, are the customs really obeying that instruction?
Well, we will. That is a different kettle of fish. But the question I will ask is this: isn't this a red flag for the federal government, suggesting that they need to begin to look into states who go into contractual agreements with international companies and even going and borrowing? Because, I mean, I think this is the big lesson to learn from this current quagmire between the Ogun State government, the federal government, and the Chinese company that had sought to take over our offshore assets. But you respond to that after the break. So we'll take a quick breather, and when we return, the conversation continues, and then the studio lines will become active so you can be part of the show. Remember, we are live and interactive.
My name is also.
My name is Ima Ehumadu, aka Labista.
My name is DK, aka Mama Chinedu. Keep watching Rapid TV.
You are watching Rapid TV.
Shout out to Rapid TV.
Hey, Rapid TV, Korero.
The biggest, the finest, the only Rapid TV.
Rapid TV.
Yes, keep watching.
Don't go nowhere. Don't touch that dial.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
This is me giving a rapid response to Rapid TV.
Hey Stars, get more value for your money with StarTimes Upgrade promo. Recharge 1 month on Nova, Basic, or Classic Bouquet and get upgraded to the next bouquet to enjoy exciting top shows like Hidden Truth,
even if something happens between you,
For the Crowd,
because I share this apart break.
Celebrity Cook-Off,
okay, viewers.
Now, by the time we use half of it, the food goes sweet well.
Prides of Passion, and more. If you're on Super Bouquet, recharge for 1 month and get an extra 5 days free. La Liga is back on StarTimes. Anticipate, get ready, it's big. This offer starts from June 13th to August 15th, 2024. Recharge now and enhance your viewing satisfaction with the StarTimes Upgrade promo. Terms and conditions apply. StarTimes, entertain your family.
My name is also.
My name is Ima Ehumadu, aka Labista.
My name is DK, aka Mama Chinedu. Keep watching Rapid TV.
You are watching Rapid TV.
Shout out to Rapid TV.
Hey, Rapid TV, Korero.
The biggest, the finest, the only Rapid TV.
Rapid TV.
Yes, keep watching.
Don't go nowhere. Don't touch that dial.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
This is me giving a rapid response to Rapid TV.
Thanks for staying with us. And if you just tuned in, this is Rapid TV's continuously evolving socio-political and general interest show we call Korero. The show is live and interactive on all our social media platforms. In fact, we are streaming live on our website, www.rbnradiotv.com. We are streaming on YouTube and Facebook. Yes, so you can follow discussions and developments on the show live. And don't forget, you can be part of our growing online community simply by following and liking Rapid TV on all our social media platforms: Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, also known as IG, on TikTok, LinkedIn, simply by our handle is @official Rapid TV. Okay, right. So on on today's edition of the show, just in case you just joined us, we have been discussing the attempt of a Chinese company to strip Nigeria's asset abroad. Now, after news broke last week that a Chinese company, Zhoushan Fengsheng Industrial Investment Company Limited, attempted to take over offshore assets of the federal government in Nigeria. The Nigerian government has admitted culpability in a $60 million dispute involving these Chinese investors. Former Ogun State Governor Ibikunle Amosun, who admitted transferring the free trade zone to a subsidiary of Zhongshan in 2012, has maintained his innocence and urged the Tinubu-led administration to resist the Chinese investors' demand. Amosun has refuted claims made by economist Dr. Pat Utome regarding a breach of contract. Now, don't forget, Dr. Pat Utome is a man of international repute who must have taken time to go through some of the documents made available with regards to this contract. And he has asserted that there is, no, according to Governor Ibikunle Amosun, former governor of Ogun State, that there is no case against him. That's what he's saying. And on the part of Dr. Utome, he has alleged that Amosun's administration violated a contract following a controversy involving the Chinese firm's claim against the Ogun State government. Now, this dispute resulted in the seizure of several presidential jets in France. Now, Utome also contended that the Chinese firm was not the only victim of contract breaches under Amosun's leadership. Now, this gives it a completely different dimension, meaning or suggesting that there is more to come, that this is just the beginning of the tsunami, you know, because according to Pat Utome, according to Pat Utome, this is not the only company that the Amosun administration had, entered into some contractual agreement with, and sadly, seems to have, violated areas of that contract. So it suggests that there is a need for the federal government to probably take a step back and do a thorough investigation into contracts, especially agreements entered into by the Ogun State government under the Amosun-led administration before it begins to, commit itself, because it just might be entering into more battles than it has anticipated. So, of course, I still have my guest in the studio, and together we are looking at this development as we try to find out how this affects the image of our great nation, Nigeria, both locally and internationally. And of course, we will open the phone lines. I did tell you the lines are live and active. The phone lines will be on the screen shortly, and you can be part of the conversation. Simply don't forget, when you do call in, do turn down the volume of your radio set so that we can have clean, clear conversation, and then tell us your name and where you are reaching us from. The numbers to call is 0916-771-6035, and you can be part of the conversation this morning. My guest is very much in the studio, Kunle Adeni, a journalist and public affairs analyst who's been following the development. Don't forget, the federal government has reacted. A press release from State House was made available to the media last week, Friday, where the government has stated its position with regards to the matter at hand. But let's hear from you. What's your reaction to all of this? I mean, first of all, Nigeria as a nation has been dragged through the mud as a result of this. It means anybody could. It suggests that anybody could wake up tomorrow and, just walk up anywhere, the presidential jet or any Nigerian asset, maybe even the Nigerian consulate in London, and just seize the building and says, look, Nigeria is owing us money, and so we have seized the consulate. It's an issue because it has to do with the reputation of Nigeria. Let's not forget, internationally, a number of Nigerians have continued to express disappointment at the way Nigerians are being treated who travel abroad once you show your green passport. There have been even suggestions that maybe we need to change the color of our passport just to make it easy for Nigerians in diaspora and Nigerians who, of course, are traveling abroad for one reason or the other. So be part of the conversation. The phone numbers are on your screen, and let's get your view. So, Kule, back to the conversation. Amosu says he has done no wrong, but in the words of Dr. Pat Utome, who has said that he alleges that Amosu's administration had violated a contract following a controversy involving the Chinese firm. Of course, we know that is what resulted in the seizure of 3 presidential jets, as you rightly point. And Utome has said that the Chinese firm was not the only victim of contract breaches under Amosu's leadership, asserting that he faced similar issues during that period. In response, of course, the former governor of the state, Ibikunle Amosu, dismissed Utome's allegations, characterizing him with a sense of entitlement. Now we are having a battle of words between 2 respectable Nigerians. Utome says, look, I've suffered victim of some of your indiscretions as a governor during your administration as a governor. As I did ask you, shouldn't this be a basis for the Tinubu-led administration to take a step back and say, wait a minute, for there not to be a repeat of this incident, let us begin to take interest in virtually every contractual agreement that has been entered into by the various states of the Federation before and under this administration, so as to, curtail a repeat of this incident.
So there are 2 sides to giving an answer to this question you have just raised. Yes, it is a red flag, especially when you don't want the federal government to be thrown into an unnecessary battle because states have gone into agreements and then the country suffers the embarrassment the way we are doing at this point in time. But for you to say federal government giving directives that they want to be in the know, the state government will also come out to tell you that, look, you'll be infringing on the autonomy of the states to operate.
Yes, as much as the states have autonomy, are we saying that there are no provisions in the Constitution that empowers the federal government, the government at the center, to have a say or to be part of negotiations of such nature?
In fact, that's why I remind you, don't forget there was a reason why the now President Bola Tinubu, who was governor of Lagos State, had that interference between him and former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Do you remember? Over just the issue of creation of more local government areas. And what happened? That is why we have seen them on the path where it appears these boatmen don't see eye to eye. Because we saw how it even led to, and that was interference by, according to a lot of people. That look, the challenge was the governor legitimately right to have set up those local government councils the way he did? Now, why did the federal government object to it? And why did he create that long battle? So, when you see states carrying out their affairs, they will tell you that, look, they have their own autonomy. The federal government has its own autonomy. Now, which means that, although, like you rightly said, it doesn't mean do not throw caution to the wind because you have your own autonomy. Do not feel that, look, you should now take actions that will say you cannot be looked into, that will say your activities cannot be probed, that you will now say, oh, as long, probably the directive will be that anything that goes against the interest, that could create an embarrassment, then we would have to look at it to prevent ourselves from being rubbish in that manner. But to say that they should naturally interfere in those, because this contrast award that we are talking about, our backtracking, even the federal government is also guilty of it. Look, we don't do our style of governance and the democracy that we practice. We don't. We say government is a continuum, but naturally, not necessarily in practice, which is why we have what is happening. Because I can tell you, there is also political interest at play that comes into this issue, especially like you rightly made reference to. Look, there was the situation where former Governor Benga Daniel, we know his political affiliation. I don't like bringing politics to this conversation, but we cannot shy away from it.
You know the irony.
governor was in place. What party did he belong to? Another governor that came in. He will tell you, it's not that he doesn't like the ideology, but look, he's not satisfied with the details of the agreement. So he wants to look at and probably give it to cronies that believes will be better suited for such contracts.
Well, Kule, truth is, we don't have enough time. We're out of time already. And what that suggests is we will continue this conversation. There will be a sequel because I would want to look at the legal implications of this matter, because you have international courts in Paris, in the US, in the UK, all involved.
The US is also giving the backing for this.
Exactly. So there will be need for us to look at the legal implications for the debacle.
Can I quickly chip in something? You know, you said something about Nigerians being upset, and you know why Nigerians did not really take a serious look into. You know, we had always said, look, these assets, these jets that we have, do we? You remember, you made reference. I said, do we need them? Maybe this will now give us another opportunity to say, oh, instead of putting our assets in jeopardy, the ones we don't need, is this not a wake-up call for us to say, before another company tries to lay claim, let us do away so that they don't have anything to lay claim to? Because someone said something jokingly, said, Nigerians are just taking it lightly because, after all, the president was not in any of the jets when it was seized. Maybe if the president was just joking on the light, maybe. But I'm wondering, I'm like, okay, this thing happened in France, and you made reference to it. I'm not asking, what are the chances that even the new presidential jet
would not be seized? Good question. Good question. Well, the conversation continues even as the show goes off the air. Let us know what your thoughts are. It might look like a matter that Nigerians shouldn't be bothered about, considering the fact that we're still coming out of the aftermath of the 10 days nationwide protest against ending hunger, ending bad governance in Nigeria. And of course, there are still silent protests everywhere, because Nigerians are highly expectant of the Tinubu-led administration. But trust us, as always, to keep our ears to the ground and our searchlight beamed on developments as they evolve. We also have our searchlight gradually beaming to my lovely state of Abia, where recently the number 3 or number 4 citizen has said that by 2027, Abia will not be led by the Labour Party. And that has thrown up all kinds of sorts. So tomorrow, we just might, if we don't continue, if we don't bring you the sequel to today's conversation, we just might quickly go to Abia to find out what is happening. Politics in the air. It's still 2024, but already we're talking 2027. So all that and more, we promise to be in the offering as far as Rapid TV's continuously evolving social, political, and general interest show is concerned. Kule, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you for allowing us be a part of your morning. And hopefully we'll get your reactions. There are social media handles, and we'll take them as part of the show. Remember, we're always live and interactive. I am Kamian John, the Beloved, also known as the Controversial, signing out.
My name is also.
My name is Ima Ehumadu, aka La Vista.
My name is DK, aka Mama Chinedu.
Keep watching Rapid TV. You are watching Rapid TV.
Shout out to Rapid TV.
Hey, Rapid TV, Korero.
The biggest, the finest, the only Rapid TV.
Rapid TV.
Yes, keep watching.
Don't go nowhere. Don't touch that dial.
Keep watching Rapid TV.
This is me giving a rapid response to Rapid TV.